Hello everybody, my name is Carol King and I am the developer of Custom Home Builders Solutions, also known as CHS, which, as the name says, is the solution for professional custom home builders for handling all of their job costing and very unique accounting requirements. CHS includes so many features that home builders came together and asked me to include based on best practices and based on both my accounting degree with honors and on my heavy experience in the back offices of home builders. They told me about how so much of the software out there seemed to be more for production builders than for custom builders, and that they have their own very specific needs to handle their unique jobs. So, my goal was to pull together the accounting and all the tools for job costing that was needed so that in the back office the accounting team was not spending so many hours making lots of spreadsheets to produce variance reports for job costs, draw request billings, insurance audit reports, figuring out cash flow and cash balances by job, where job costs and gross profit are heading on each job, and on and on and on.
So what I'd like you to know is that I've been that accountant in that clip that was at the first of this video, with everything coming at me and double entering data into spreadsheets for the home building business I worked for as a controller. I spent so much of my time creating spreadsheets like the one to figure out where the job costs were headed and how they varied over or under the original budget estimate today. But that meant I had to get and then enter data from the builder's original estimated budget, get and enter any new committed costs from purchase orders issued, get and enter the estimated costs of any new change orders, and get and enter actual job costs that have been posted so far from the generic accounting software I used at the time. By the way, if you have worked in a home builder's office, I think you'll understand why I am saying the word get so loud. Maybe you know how hard it can be to even get the numbers you need from the people you need them from in the first place. And here's the kicker. After finally getting the data and entering all of the data and being sure all the numbers tie to the data that you got, they probably are already outdated by the time you've finished it. I'm just saying that I know where those frown lines on the accountant in the clip were coming from. So maybe, just maybe, we can get rid of those frown lines by using a software that brings all those numbers together for you. Let me start with showing you how the builder estimator can create powerful budgets proposals in CHS, how the purchasing person can enter committed costs into purchase or work orders, and how a builder estimator can enter change orders estimates, and how entering bills from vendors is designed for job costing in CHS. And then how CHS just instantly captures all those numbers by job and by cost center, like roofing, framing, plumbing, in one place and compares them to calculate where job costs and variances are heading any minute of any day. So to get to that estimated cost at completion worksheet, you would start when CHS opens and you're on the Home main menu by clicking something called an Active Jobs Dashboard, which is a place you go to work on all sorts of things for every single job or project that you have. You can see here that we are a full accounting program with general ledgers and financials, printing checks, doing bank recs, doing various things like your chart of accounts and handling those, and all payables ledgers, and posting various deposits and setting up payers and having accounts receivable, etc. But right now I'm going to focus in on the thing that lets you not prepare so many jillions of spreadsheets. So I've clicked the Active Jobs Dashboard, and you'll see that there's a tab up here. And I've selected a job, which you can do a drop down and select from one of your projects. And then you have all sorts of things that you can do for that job, like build a budget estimate worksheet, set up the job, set up some plans, upload them to the plans room, comments, create purchase orders, create change orders, look at your actual posted costs from accounting for that job, approve posted unpaid costs, and on and on. And all of these relate to just this particular job I selected. So I had clicked on estimated cost at completion, and it opened it in a tab right up here. estimated costs at completion means, if you listen to it, at completion, where your costs are headed as best as can be calculated as of today versus where your original budget plus any change order budgeted amounts are. And that's the amount over here over or under the total budget. So the ECC is your estimated cost of completion today, and CHS has all kinds of formulas to be figuring out what it is today. Now please take a minute and think about how this has been gathered by CHS just by a click of a button, and that no spreadsheets have been made to bring all these numbers together from the budget to the change orders to the actual cost to total POs, etc. What I'd like to do is quickly go over a few of the basics here. First of all, at the top of this screen, you're seeing that CHS is very busy calculating what your profit difference is today based on what your current ECC is, the type of job, like this one is fixed, and various things that have occurred. The other thing is that it can track cash balances for each job no matter how many checking accounts you use, and we'll get to that. It'll show you a list of currently posted accounts payable job cost bills that have not been paid yet, and how much cash would be available if you paid those. But what I'd like to point out is that there are different levels of permissions that you can assign to your team. We are hoping that the field actually gets on this screen to study where actual costs are, to give some notes about POs, talk about work done, and all sorts of things. But various builders don't want the field to see accounting things, so they give them a lower level of permission. If they have a lower level of permission, these two things will not show for people with lower level permissions. Just wanted to reassure you of that when you're looking at the screen. Now I'd like to show you that there's little bubbles here, and if they're green, that means there's comments back and forth between team members to be seen about this particular job and this particular cost center. Also, there's notes here that will show you the POs and the actual costs and any notes that you have there. It's a little notebook. This here, if you're wanting to know what the sum, there's not sums on these because it takes a lot of calculation to run the sums and we don't want to slow it down. But if you'd like to see the sum for a group of cost codes, you can see the sum right down here in the individual cost code centers. I'd like to mention, while I'm talking about cost code centers, is that these are based on ones loaded from the NAHB recommended cost codes, and that's what this builder decided to do when they set up their cost codes. But you can load those or not. You could set them up from scratch yourself, so these are not necessarily cost codes you're having to use, it's just the ones this builder is using. You could load the NAHB ones and tweak them as you like. I would like to have you watch the seminar videos about setting up cost codes to learn a whole lot more about that, and the various defaults that you can set with them to bring various notes into job budgets or to do calculations based on the specs, etc. But there is a seminar about setting up cost codes, and then there's a seminar about setting up budgets. This right here is something called a job stage. You will also set up stages as you like, but if you drill down on a stage, it's going to show you some information from the schedule that is based on stages. One of the things is tasks and logs, so that you could see daily logs, and there'll probably be several of them. I just did one here to just show how you can be doing a daily log for a certain date and write a whole bunch of notes as much as you like and upload a couple of files or photos. Decide whether you're going to show the buyer online, etc. these daily logs. Also, this is a report for Big Buck that was assigned to a task, and it's showing when the stage is estimated to be and showing what the task would be, layout and set forms. Various things just to give you a quick idea of what's going on there. And then you can see a schedule report, a full schedule report of how schedules are done based on stages that you set up. This builder set up 14 stages, 0 to 13. And it's a very simple way to do scheduling without having to move a whole bunch of little tasks around. You do lists of tasks behind these. On the schedule worksheet, you'll start out with putting your estimated days. CHS is going to be very smart about bringing in change order estimated delays. That's just a brief overview. Please watch other videos about all of that. I just want you to see how much this is not only some flat worksheet that you can't get anywhere, but how much you can see by drilling down on various things. I am going to go over real quickly a couple of these to show you how the ECC changes based on things that we do or things that were brought in. But first of all, I'd like to show you that down here the total of the budget column is 408,942. If I click that, I can get a quick report with items, which I already have open, so I'm going to just do that. I have it open in a PDF, which means it's active. This is a Loveman appliance schedule that is active, and you can see that here, that we have that uploaded and attached when we did the budget. So we can see their appliance schedule right away. But this complete thing here is for the builder. It shows both your budgeted amounts plus marked up amounts. This isn't necessarily for the buyer, but it says internal notes are in italic and buyer notes are below the internal notes. This is just to let you know all of the things that you can write and do as you're doing your budget. You can see that this one was based on living square feet that was brought in from the job setup times a unit price that they put in. A lot of that got loaded when they started their budget. You can see the slab contract notes. You can see various hyperlinks that are probably to a bid. Now this is an internal one, and it's showing various things like all the items and all the notes, etc. So if you go back to that appliance one, you can see all the notes for the buyer that the builder wrote. You can see the internal notes that were put in here. You can see a list of items, and you can set up items behind those various cost centers, as many as you like, and then bring them into budgets. Now what I'd like you to see is one that the builder might give to the buyer that I already have open here, which is different than what we just saw, to look at internally. This builder has set up a style, and you can set up as many styles as you want, but this style starts with job budget proposal. But if you set up another style that might be completed contract budget, or who knows what you might call it, that would print here, and you'd select that style before you print this. The builder also controls what shows up here in the header and what shows up in the footer down here, and he's chosen to put the address and his signature down there in the footer. Then CHS, if you select this one to show just the marked up amounts only, that's what you're seeing here, not the budgeted amounts. That's what this one has done because it's a fixed contract. Just look at all those notes, by the way, as I scroll, that you can do to make an awesome proposal to get that sale. But as you scroll down here, you can see that it totals to this amount, which is the price that they set because they matched the market percent, etc., to the price that they decided to use. We'll see a little bit of that as we go further. That was one with items. Here's a group totals one. And by groups, I'm talking about utility connections, footings, and foundations. You see these groups over here. So it just groups it up by totals for those groups so that it's very simple. Another one is a quick report by stage. Notice that over here in these stages, several of these are put into different stages based on the stage attached to the cost code. So this is a really handy one actually for sort of forecasting. If you set up your stages about the time that you would be taking draws from the bank or from the buyer, and then if you group and total the budget by stage, then you can see what you might be drawing marked up for a fixed contract, just for a quick little sort of forecast of what amounts you might be drawing from them at the end of certain stages or as a stage begins. Believe me, there are powerful interim draw requests that mean that you don't have to do a whole bunch of spreadsheets to do draw requests, especially for cost plus, and maybe we'll get to that in this video. I wanted to start with the budget to give you an idea where the numbers from the original budget are coming from. In the change order column, what's in the change order column, I think one of them is way down here, right here in swimming pool, is $33,000, and apparently there's another one for $1,000. So if we drill down and we look at the with estimated costs and buyer notes one, you're going to see that when you do a change order, you're going to be estimating the cost of the change order, and that's what this worksheet, the ECC, is about, is costs, your costs. But also you can see the price you charge the customer, how much profit you would be making on those change orders, also any payments received, and the delay days, which again, CHS is very smart about bringing those delay days into your schedule based on the stage that it's in. That's a quick look at how you can see what the change orders are. I'm going to quickly pop open the POs, which is purchase orders, and over the time of creating CHS, I have realized how powerful POs are for communicating with the entire team. But let's just do one by cost code with notes. So it's grouped by cost codes. You can see cost code, and showing what purchase orders there are, and showing the PO type, like budgeted, or there's some variance ones here, etc., and the amounts, and who the PO was to, like this vendor Big Buck or PDA. United Plumbing is a vendor here. You can see that United Plumbing had to pay $250, but then back charge Big Buck, and you can see all that grouped under Rough Plumbing there. That's just a quick overview to just glance at those. Now take a look at if you just look at variance POs only. When you issue one's called variance, and you can set up variance types and see how many variance POs you issued and for what and to who and for how much. Also, you can do it by vendor with status dates. So these are grouped by vendor and not by cost codes. You see the vendors going on. And when it says status dates, I don't have hardly anything in for my demo because I don't run around and try to fill in a bunch of dates. But we'll talk about Sunwest Tile here in just a little bit and see the signed PO. And so there's a signed date. And then there's POs versus actual costs. Let's do one by vendor. There's one by cost code also. But you can start seeing the actual costs right here posted, the costs over or under, and the PO amount remaining to pay. And the other one is by cost code. So see how much information you're getting. Now I'd like to go to an actual cost report to show all the actual costs. And when it first opens, you get a quick report, but then you can also export to PDF so that various things are alive, so that if you have uploaded copies of the actual bills, you could click on a hyperlink and see a copy of the actual bill that goes with it, which is really pretty super. As a bookkeeper enters bills, they can upload and attach a copy of the bills, the payables bills that they're paying to vendors, and this comes down to the total that we see on the worksheet. Over here, you can see the ECC report, which is just a basic report of this worksheet that you'll see right here, and you can send it to PDF and have it look nicer. But it's just basically those groups and then the various cost codes underneath and how much over under, etc. So that's a quick one you can print out to look at. Now here's one that various builders refer to as a Bible. This is the ECC. This first line here is the ECC line that we see on that worksheet. But associated with it are any of the actual costs that have actually been posted. See the cost amount and then the totals and whether they're paid or unpaid. So that's a really handy report for you to look at. If you drill down to the page, you will see all the actual costs that have been paid in the same type of report there, but just paid. As I mentioned, you could see payables that are unpaid that have been posted but would be included in your total actual costs and see the amounts of those. Then outstanding is a real powerful report, outstanding by cost code, and it says it's very dependent on the ECC. It's showing the estimated cost at completion, a percent complete that you either typed in or that CHS calculated for you, and then figures out how much of the work is completed, the amount of the work that is actually completed based on that percent. Then it shows the paid costs for each cost code. Then it shows outstanding, unpaid, completed. So it's taking the completed minus the paid and showing what's completed today but hasn't been paid. So you can see that $74,000 again that we saw over here. And then you can see outstanding, unpaid to complete. And that's this amount down here, $405,613, and you'll see it here, and you'll see it in the last column over here. There's paid amounts and there's outstanding to pay all the way out to completion. Then you see a very powerful calculation of the profit that is expected today based on the ECC for fixed, approved change orders, allowance adjustments, revenues received. For fixed, it's not based on the ECC, it's based on the fixed contract price. It's not a cost plus job. Revenues received minus paid posted costs. and an amount, revenues less paid. Then there's the outstanding to pay that we've posted. So we're current over short this 9429.94. Then remaining revenues to receive and additional outstanding costs to completion. So that's a very powerful report for you. It can be kind of handy to do it by stage so that you see how much is outstanding for each stage. So here's stage 7 and this much is outstanding. Here's stage 6, drywall complete. We paid part of it. My numbers are all over the place. Again, this is just a demo. I'm not a real builder, so I'll jump around and I'll just do things for demo and things show up. So a lot of these things you think, well, these costs should already be in here if we're all the way down to here. But pay no attention to that part. We're just looking at how the whole thing works. If you've been wondering how you make an original job budget, or how you do change orders, etc., or how you do purchase orders, or how you enter actual costs, I would like you not to overlook our CHS software seminars. That's at chssoftware.com, and if you click Features in the menu at the top, you're going to come to a page that says Learn our features by reviewing our free seminar videos. Now look right here if I start scrolling down. But it's telling you about job cost centers and how to set up all those cost codes, jobs and specs, etc., and job budgets, which we've been talking about, which is the estimate, purchase orders, work orders, change orders, talks about job stages we set up, about schedules, and then somewhere down here you're going to have those job cost payables and how you're entering them so that they can land on all of your spreadsheets of job costs. But be assured that there are detailed videos on our website, so you should have your whole team maybe sit down and look at the areas that they're interested in before you make a decision about CHS. Now let's drill down on some of the cost centers on the ECC worksheet to see how you can adjust the ECC for various cost centers as needed. I'd like to prove to you how interactive the ECC worksheet is and that it's very different than using some flat Excel worksheet, since you can reach out and look at things and then adjust them and check mark things and say that this is what our ECC is going to be as of today. So I have focused in on slab contract. And what it did was bring in the original budgeted amount, so I'm going to drill down on that. Now this is a quick view. I could export to PDF, and they decided instead of basing it on putting in a measure of slab square feet and bringing that in to instantly calculate when they opened the budget, that they were going to get a bid. This link right here, you can take a look at that original bid proposal. It was for $34,400. But let's go back, and you can see that there's some notes in here. The bid was for $13.19 per slab square feet, but Glenn has agreed to $12.50 per discussion between George and Glenn. So they did do the budget amount from the original bid, but then they issued a PO for a lower amount. And a variance PO was later issued for $2,000 for soil conditions, and then $200 was deducted from the payments to Big Buck for site cleanup. This means that you should type notes. A good place to go is on the Notes plus Revise. You can see all the budget notes here, and you can write some more while you're here. So let's look at that line again. You see that we budgeted that $34,400 from the bid, and then we issued some variance PO that we saw, and we already saw the notes for that it was for soil conditions. But our total POs are not for $3,400 plus $2,000, they're for $34,600, and that's because of the price change that we got them to agree to, and that we issued a lower PO amount. When you drill down, you can see those POs from here. So you see we issued a PO for $32,600, but we only posted costs for $400. We already saw the note that we deducted $200. So we're going to say this PO is done. So we just have these two POs, and we know that's all we're going to issue. So what we'd like to do on the ECC is get this ECC to change from being this $34,400 plus $2,000. So we're going to check mark Use POs, and that means Use POs as the ECC. Now look how the ECC has changed to the amount of the POs, $34,600, and we're only showing over budget by $200. So then what we do is we look at the actual costs here. Let's take a look at that. If it's not in the right cost code, you can edit and change the cost code and get it moved to a different cost code. Write comments about it back and forth, or read comments that perhaps the bookkeeper gave you. All kinds of things about the actual job costs that have been posted for this particular cost code. When we look at those, we say we're not going to be paying them anymore. We paid for the $2,000 variance. We did the PO, but we deducted $200 for site cleanup because they left it messy, and we're not going to pay them anymore. So if I close that, I want that ECC to be this amount of these actual costs. So I have another little checkbox that I'm going to say the actual costs are done. Now look how the ECC has changed to 34,400. And we've magically ended up with a 0 over budget amount. And we think, how did we do that when we had a $2,000 variance PO and some other adjustments here? But it's just sort of a coincidence. But a great way to look at it if you want to try to figure it out is to use the Store and Compare button up here, where you may have stored these EC numbers on previous days. You can store it today, which I've already done. You can see here that I've stored 11/16, but you can open it up and say click to store all of these ECC values for today so that we can compare them to what they were on other days. Let's go and compare from the earliest date that we have in here and compare to today, and open the ECC comparison window. So this is a great tool to look at how things have changed from 10/28 to 11/16. It'll show you that up there, what time of day. But let's take a look at our slab contract. And this is for October 28th, and this is for when I was doing this video. And right here, the first thing we see is variance POs went down by $500. That also caused the total POs to go down by $500. Also on this day, these total POs, we did not check mark those to use the POs, but then we did in our video today to use those. On this day, we did not have the actual cost that we had entered check marked as done, so the ECC was picking up the higher PO amount. Then in our video today, we check marked these as done, so now the ECC became that, and overall the ECC went down by $700. That's because we got rid of a variance PO that we had in here that was being picked up here for the ECC. We deleted it actually on another day, and there's that $200 difference in our actual costs that we charged for site cleanup. It's just sort of a coincidence that we ended up with the same amount as that original budget amount before we lowered it. So that's great that we had a variance in all of that, and we still ended up at what we budgeted for. If I do an audit and I wonder why did the variance POs go down, let's see if I can kind of get a clue, because audits are going on while you delete and change things. I happen to know that down here it says confirm deletion of purchase order on 11/15 for $500. So between the two dates that I have, that happened. So we deleted a $500 PO. So hopefully you can kind of get a grasp of that and how neat that is. You have to remember to go ahead and click that Store and Compare button and then store the values. Maybe choose once a day at a certain time, or choose one day a week that you're going to do that at a certain time so you can compare from week to week. It's totally up to you, but that's a pretty powerful tool to be drilling down and figuring out what changed. How many spreadsheets would you have to do to come up with this one screen here for the estimated cost of completion? And then how many spreadsheets, if you wanted to be comparing from one day to another, would you have to be keeping yourself to try to grab the numbers as of a certain day of your original spreadsheet and then save them in some other spreadsheet so that you can then compare them and then write a bunch of formulas? I'd like to point out a couple of things. I have moved down to focus on the framing package. You can see that we budgeted $27,462 originally for this, and then we came along and we issued total POs for $29,778, but somehow we have posted actual costs of $31,900 and something. So what I'd like to show you is this is not only, instead of just having a spreadsheet so that you can just look at numbers, you can actually do things and drill down and add more POs, etc., which is what I'm getting to. But if I click to look at the POs here, it is also going to show me all the actual costs. You can see posted costs, $31,942.68, which you see there in actual costs back there. And you can see PO totals that were the same as on that worksheet. Notice, though, that these are here posted costs. PO is 0, so the PO number is none. Drilling down on the posted cost maybe gives you some clue as to what this cost was for. When I posted the bill, I said replace materials damaged by weather. So let's just close that. So right here, you can add a new PO so that you can have a variance PO to let you know more about what happened. It already knows that this is a PO for Pro Build, that it's a variance, but let's give it a variance reason that has to do with weather, damaged by weather. And let's say to replace materials damaged by weather. And while we're here, let's just attach those costs that have not been attached to a PO by clicking this hyperlink. And let's say attach this one to the PO and attach this one to the PO. Close it, and let's close this and see what happens to our POs list. Now notice that we have a PO for this amount and we've attached the posted cost. So see how fast you hooked it up to a PO. Notice now we're showing variance POs right here and total POs. Just wanted to show you how active you can do things and handle things like purchase orders, etc. directly from this screen. So I'd like to make another point about how handy it is to have a thing like this that opens that shows you all these numbers instantly, and it's not on an Excel spreadsheet that you're looking at this, because you can't drill down to various things like what I'm going to show you right now. I scrolled down to K-Tops and Tubbs Allowance, one of their cost centers. I want to show you something that happened to actually keep this one within the budget. But CHS caused that to happen so that they didn't overpay something. I'd like to do that by showing you all the comments back and forth between people about this job and this cost center. So let's open those. All of these are sorted in descending order so that the oldest one will be down here. And this comment is from us sending to SunWest Tile a bid request. And you can look at the bid request we sent there. And then this yellow from contact is from SunWest Tile sending us their bid. Now look how you can just see the bid. And here's their bid proposal. And I'd like you to focus in on something about supply and install tile to shower walls, and that the total is $6,300. And let's see that we issued a purchase order and sent it to SunWest Tile based on that bid. You can see the purchase order here, but I'm going to show you the signed one because they came along, got on their portal after they got that message, and they signed the purchase order. And you can take a look at that purchase order right here. And you can see that when we created the purchase order, we split it into a couple of parts here based on what their bid was, said as per your attached bid, and that they also put a link to something in their plan rooms, and that this is also a link to the bid request that we just saw. And if we come down here and look at the verbiage this builder has set up for purchase orders, we can see that it's signed. And once again, when you do purchase orders, you set up various different styles of purchase orders, and you might set up a style called work order so that it would have been printed with the word work order and some different kinds of verbiage that would drop in based on the style that you select before you save this purchase order to a hard copy. And let's go looking farther here. Now look here, all of a sudden me, the bookkeeper, is saying the $550 you added to your bill for tile that you already included in your original bid, which we used for issuing a PO to you. Since you signed the PO, we will not be including the additional $550 in the payment to you. I think I left out a couple words there. But mainly, when I was entering the bill, it was for more than the bid or the PO, and CHS alerted me about that actually while I was entering it. But if you click here, you can see that we attached a copy of their bill, and you can see how they added $550 here. And if you remember, this was essentially already included in the bid that they gave us. So we're objecting to paying the $550. We'll go back here, close that. And then I sent to the project manager and told them $550 on the bill was already included in their bid. And then the project manager came back and said, do not pay the overage. And then I came back and said the overage has been posted as a negative payables amount to deduct from this bill. So let's close that. Let's drill down on the actual costs here. And you can actually see that all happening in the accounting where the bill was posted, and that there's a copy of the bill link here. You see where we entered the two lines, and then I went ahead and entered the $550 so that everybody knows what the total bill was for. But I made sure I did those comments so that when the field comes along and is approving those unpaid bills to pay, they can see the comment and that there's a green bubble about it. And then tell me what to do, which I did was go minus this. So we have a whole trail here of what happened and why we removed it. So that shows you how CHS can save you from overpaying, how you can drill down from something that's not just a dead Excel spreadsheet and look at everything and why those things are happening. What I'd like to do now is give you another little plug for using this to communicate with all of your team members. But let's play like the field is on, not seeing this stuff up here, but that they're supposed to get on and do some reviewing and tell you whether the work has been done on certain POs. So the field person might be on here, and they might notice that there's POs for $67.86, but that somebody revised the notes. First of all, I'd like you to look at the original budget for this. It was based on living square feet times a unit price that just loaded in based on the living square feet of the job because you set up some master defaults on your cost code master to start a budget this way. But The boss, Jimmy, had a discussion with Peter from the architect firm, and Peter has agreed to only charge $6,000 and not the original estimate that we did. You can see that by drilling down here. Revision by Jimmy, Peter has agreed to charge only $6,000, so Jimmy put in a $6,000 revision. And when somebody uses this revision and types in an amount of something they know that CHS doesn't know about yet, the revision will become the ECC amount. It will override POs and budgets, etc., until the actual costs possibly go higher. If they go higher than this amount, the actual cost becomes the ECC. But I wanted to show you is, first of all, that's one way for the boss to communicate after talking to the architect. And here's a way for the field to also communicate, and that's by drilling down on the POs. The field can be in here deciding to look at things and telling you whether the work is done or not. And that's right here, work done. Going to check mark it and say work done. That does not necessarily mean the PO's done, because it's not done because the costs have not been applied to it yet. But right here, if you drill down on this amount, which it says approval adjustment, you're going to want to take this down by $786 because you notice that it's supposed to be, and you want to be sure the bookkeeper notices that. So we're going to do minus 786 for that, so that we get the approved amount is $6,000, and per Jimmy, Peter has agreed to charge only $6,000. So the field knows that from reading the thing and has decided they're in control of saying so much to deduct from the PO, so that the bookkeeper will know about that. So let's save that. You'll see CHS adjust it, and you'll see a create bill thing. So let's go back to the jobs dashboard. And let's click the area for purchase orders, and that's called POs and cost management, that window we just had open. Let's just go ahead and open it all for all the POs and costs, actually. And we see that one right up front here, and this one over here. And we're being the bookkeeper now. And we want to just go ahead and create a bill. I'm doing this because I want you to see how CHS handles entering bills. You do not have to create them from a PO. You can create them from scratch. But we've come in here, and CHS has filled everything in. If you come in here on your own, you can drop down and start typing Loveman and select a PO, and then amounts will fill in also. Or you can just enter stuff without selecting a PO. But I'd like you to notice real quickly that there's a cost code in here. There's a GL account number that has dropped in based on what you set up for the job to post job costs to. A job code has dropped in, and that means that CHS can find this bill in all the ways that I've been showing you. And there's a $6,000 amount here. If you want to look at the PO status and approval notes again, you can while you're here, and you can see the note about the $6,000 if you're wondering about it. But you can see that we're going to only apply $6,000 as an actual cost. So that just can instantly happen. Then you submit the bill, post it as unpaid to be in accounts payable, and you're done with doing that bill. You can view the entries that were posted there if you want. Now it's showing this amount still as open. So what you'd like to do, because everybody knows we're only going to pay $6,000 and not the amount of the PO, is checkmark the PO as done, which means it's not sitting here as open anymore. I wanted to quickly show you that so you get a little quick overview. If we go back to the ECC and refresh it, you can see that all along the line here we just paid the actual cost. We know that it was revised. We're going to say these costs are done. So I'd like to take a moment here to remind you how many hundreds of builders and their wish lists I have worked with in order to prepare all of the things you've been seeing that keep you from making all those spreadsheets. So now I'm going to rush real fast through some remaining ones so that this video isn't too long, and show you really quickly a whole bunch of other things you might recognize. First of all, this line up here on the ECC, again, only high permission level users can see this line. So if you think about what spreadsheets it would take to show you the original price, the original budget, the original profit, a revised price somehow, where does that come from? And we'll see that. The ECC and a revised profit, your expected cost and your revised profit. I'm going to click this magnifying glass here to show you. First of all, like we said, this job is marked as a fixed contract. We'll talk about the other two types of cost plus ones in a moment. But I'd like to say that this is showing you the original price and profit here from the budget that we saw, and the original profit percent based on a profit percent they wanted. and they marked up everything 25% as CHS suggested, etc. Second of all, here's the fixed price that was typed in based on CHS's suggestion, and a list of change order prices that would be added to the contract, and an allowance adjustment based on the fact that they had certain cost centers that are listed here that were marked as allowances, and in the contract they said we will be charging you for anything that's over. CHS will bring in the current estimated cost at completion so that this is an estimate of where they will be over. Basically, once you finish and mark all your actual costs as done and your ECC equals your total actual costs, then this will be right on the money. But this is showing you an allowance adjustment right here and how it's figured out. So that's really quick, and if you had to make a spreadsheet to do that, that would be a pain. Also here is something called a contract balance report that is using the calculations we just saw for a fixed contract and then showing all revenues received from the customer and the balance of the current contract. That would take some spreadsheets to figure that out, right? Now here's a massive, powerful one that you wouldn't like to do in a spreadsheet. The profit and cash status of open jobs. Now this one's narrowed down just to the job that we're interested in right now, but there's actually a report that groups and totals all of these for multiple jobs on the owner's review screen. But you'll notice here's the revised price calc, here's the revised profit variance that we saw, revenues received, revenues remaining to receive, paid job costs that we saw a minute ago, costs remaining to pay, that's the ECC minus the paid costs, and net cash due in or out, which has to do with revenues remaining and costs remaining to pay. And one very powerful thing in CHS, of course, is the cash flow that we're going to look at here in just a minute by job, and telling you all of the time, no matter how many checking accounts you use, how much cash this job has contributed and how much is available after paying open unpaid accounts payable. That would be a pain for you to do quite a spreadsheet all the time on all of your jobs for that. But I just wanted to point that out. Let's quickly take and change this to a cost plus markup so I can show you that CHS is really smart about calculating things based on the type of contract. A cost plus markup means the buyer will pay all of the costs plus a markup percent that you apply. They are applying a 25% markup percent, and it's probably in their contract. So this takes the budget plus the markup, which is the budget plus the markup here, minus the job budget to show what the original estimated profit would have been at 20%. Now it takes the current ECC plus adds that 25% to it. Current ECC is your current expected costs, and it shows you the amount of the markup, the 25% of that would be added, and a revised price. And there's not change orders or allowance markups are a moot point. It's just all cost plus a markup. Revised price minus current ECC shows you the revised profit and where you're headed on that. And you can get the same types of reports and everything else right here. So let's do cost plus fee. That's that the buyer will pay all costs plus a fee that you set. You can put whatever builder fee you want in here based on your contract, but right now we're using the one that CHS suggests to get a 20%. Budget plus fee minus the job budget is the original profit, current ECC, current expected costs, plus a builder fee, but in this case change orders apply, and only the fees that you charge on the change orders. So if you do this, you can drill down and see the change orders, the estimated cost, the CO price, price with tax, etc., and it is showing you the estimated profit. In other words, the difference between the price and the estimated costs are some fees that will be added to the contract on a cost plus fee. Because if you think about it, if you set a fee based on your original budget, but then they do some changes to the original plans, etc., then you need to get some more fees to cover those costs. So that's the difference there. Let's put this one back to a fixed contract. Close it. And over here is a very powerful tool of CHS. If I click this to analyze where this cash balance is coming from, I can look and I can see what checking accounts things have come into, deposits and payables. If you use more than one checking account somehow for stuff for this job, another checking account might show up here. You can drill down to all the detail behind all of these, and this is tracking how much has been put on credit cards instead of paid by check for various job costs, and showing that and which credit card. And when you post a job cost bill, you might mark it as paid by credit card and select which credit card account. You can run ledgers of these, see everything for the job that was paid on a credit card. And so it's here as part of figuring out how much cash there is for this job, because you will be paying the credit card at some point, even if it's a big lump sum. But as you post it, it's captured by the jobs. This would take a lot of doing to present something like this on a spreadsheet, but CHS will do it for you. Profit transfers are things that you've done where you've figured out that you've earned so much profit, and I'll show you that in a minute, and you've moved some money out of the account maybe to your operating or something. That's what that is. There's more about that on other videos, and there's a special video about that. You can drill down to all actual job costs that have been posted but are unpaid in accounts payable, so that you can see what is sitting there waiting for you to pay, and that if you paid those payables, you'd have this much cash available. So let's jump off of this estimated cost of completion worksheet and go home, and really quickly I'm going to show you the owner review. This one here is a list of all active jobs, open active jobs. And there's that same calculation going on: original price, original profit, revised price, current estimated profit. It's in green if the profit difference is going up, it's in red if the profit is going down. Here's all those cash flow balances for the job, open payables. You can drill down to the detail of that, so the owner can see all of these things. Here's a list of the estimated cost at completion amounts, which ones are going over by, and getting red. Total cash right now is this, and all of these just drill down to a report of cash accounts and credit card accounts, which are applied against it, because this is how much you owe the credit cards right now, and accounts payable that are open and credit cards, and the net, this amount minus any accounts payable minus credit cards that need to be paid, sort of shows you what cash you have to work with. And here's some interesting reports that would take a lot of spreadsheet to do. This is the profit and cash status of all those open jobs grouped by type of job. That's that same report I showed you, but for all the active open jobs. This is a profit transfers worksheet that is figuring out the earned estimated profit, previous profit earned right here, previous transfers that you moved from construction to operating, and net cash available after those transfers. I'll let you pause and study this and think about what kind of job it would be to do a worksheet like this, and then how you might be transferring cash from a construction account to an operating account. This is a summary of open jobs. It's just basically revenues, costs, and revenues minus costs for that. That's a quick one. Let's jump to a couple of other things that I'd like to wow you with before we get off of this. Then if you go to the Active Jobs dashboard and look at Report Central for the job, I want to show you a really powerful sheet to help you with those earned profit transfers. If you go over here under Contract Profit and Revenues Earned and Profit Transfers, you're going to get a powerful report about the job that is telling you the current revised price, estimated cost of completion, and estimated profit right now. Then it's going to show you posted costs to date and divide that by the current ECC and give you a % complete here, which means that it can figure out how much revenue is earned as of today by multiplying the revised price times that % complete and show you a profit earned to date. Then it's showing you that you have previously transferred money from your construction to your operating of your earned profit, but you still have this much right now that you could transfer as long as you have the money available. But it's showing you revenues received, posted cost to date, minus previous, that all you have available for a profit transfer really is $400, and it's alerting you about that. You need to probably get some more draws from your customer, etc., before you can actually transfer profit that you've earned. So it's giving you a good idea of how to post a transfer that you made from one checking account to another, and how to recognize how much profit transfers that you've done already. Now that would take quite a bit of Excel spreadsheets for you to do something like that, and that was just a click of a button for me. Now I'm going to go off of here and off of all of this about this job and just try to wow you with a few more things for accounting. So let me ask you, how long does it take you to gather everything that you need to do to bill your customer or draw from your customer or from the bank for the various different jobs? Well, CHS has tackled that and has draw requests that you can simply produce even for cost plus jobs without doing all of those spreadsheets. Let's look at draw requests, prepare draw requests, and let's take a look just real quickly at the Loveman job, which is a fixed contract, and it tells you that right here. Let's look at the list of draws that we've done so far for this fixed contract. This one is based on percent complete because it's a fixed contract. And I'll show you the stored PDF that we stored for the draw request. You can see that it says draw request 1. This verbiage up here you set up yourself or what you'd like to be right at the top here. You can see going along here is a budget, and it's actually really a marked up budget. And then you're doing percents of the marked up budget that you will enter, or CHS will help you figure out the percents done based on costs posted so far. And then you're including things on the draws, and it's showing you how much percent, and comes down to the end down here to show the total of all your costs and codes. You can print ones that are summaries by just the groups here if you like, etc. I want to jump to one that's a cost plus because I'd like to make a point. Let's go to Smith John, click that. It knows it's a cost plus, showing that over here, cost plus fee, and we've done several draws. First of all, if I prepare one, then it's going to bring up a list of job costs that have not been drawn yet, all check marked to include on this draw, but you could uncheck mark some of them to include. But it knows what you've drawn prior and what costs have not been drawn on a draw request. If I open this draw request that I stored after I did it, it's pretty much you click those costs and then you go tell it to print which style of draw request you want. This will be the budget at cost, not marked up. And it's showing what's been prior drawn, the costs in a column, and then it's showing ones that we're drawing right now that are costs that were included to come up with the cost for this draw. And if you come down to the bottom, you'll see that it totals that up, but then it also adds a builder fee. It shows what the total builder fee that you are going to draw, what you have earned so far to draw, and what you drew prior and what you're drawing now. It also has a list of all the revenues received and change orders because those do come into play on a cost plus builder fee. And I'd like to show you one big thing that you can also see if it's a cost plus is the cost detail behind this. It says actual costs only. Let's do one with attachments. It says this is the one for the cost plus fee. So instead of handing them a big pile of bills that you included on the draw, you could upload attachments for every bill that you entered. And when they send this to PDF, this becomes active, and they can see the bills that go along with this list of job costs. Here's the total cost for draw number 4, which was $44,700. You look back at the draw request and go to the end, you see that number on the draw request you gave them, and that's how easy it is to give the detail behind the draw request. If you do a cost plus markup type of job, a cost plus markup one, if you open the draw doc, will show the costs at a marked up amount, and it will go down here showing the markup, and show the total. It doesn't have something like a builder fee. These are marked up costs here, $26,376, that it drew just by you saying I want all the costs that I haven't drawn, and you can do a cost detail for this one. And for a cost plus markup, you could do marked only, or you could show them the costs and the marked up amounts if you would like to. Let's do that because they get to know the actual costs and then the marked up and see markup amounts that are being applied to all the costs that you included in that particular draw request. Down here to the $26,376 marked up amounts of draws. So that's pretty great that you can show all that detail and have short URLs to uploaded copies of the bills so you're not running around making a bunch of copies of the bills for them. As soon as you do the draw request, it's going to know which costs were included on that and can show you that right away. So how about saving days and days and days preparing billings or draw requests for your customers or for your bank and using CHS to do that instead? Let's go home. If you are an accountant that has to deal with percentage of completion entries, journal entries each month for each job for how much percent complete, and you're moving things out of work in progress into cost of sales and the money to sales that you've earned, I'd like you to know that there's a percentage of completion worksheet, and I'm just going to do some weird dates. Usually you do a month at a time, But let's look at this worksheet that we have here. I'm not really running percentage of completion for this fake set of books that I have, but you can get the concept. If you see our Loveman job, it's showing a revenues estimate right now, the current contract price, estimated cost of completion, estimated profit, prior period costs incurred before that beginning date of 1/1, current period costs incurred, job to date costs incurred, and then it's showing you prior period revenue earned, revenue this and that. And these amounts are the amounts that need to be posted for the current period as a journal entry, and the current period revenue earned, etc. So if you do create JE, CHS has a screen then that helps you create your percentage of completion journal entry. If you're like me, we were doing that when I was controller, and it took me weeks to put together the numbers and the amounts for the journal entries that I needed, and CHS is just doing that for you here. I want to show you another thing that wows accountants. If I go home and close that, I'm going to do general ledgers and financials. I'm going to look at financial statements, and I'm going to look at income statements, profit and loss. Now notice how we can do little income statements for a job right here, or for a certain department, like custom homes department, specs departments, this and that, or the entire company. And let's look at the really powerful one that I want you to see as of today is a trial balance with job sums. Let's look at their work in progress GL account that's called direct construction costs. And notice how you see everything that's in here, the balance of each job that totals up to the total that is in that account. You can drill down on the general ledger for just that job in that account and see all of the entries that have been made and what that number is made up of. You can also look at what job costs are in this GL or what job costs are in other GLs, because you don't necessarily have to put all your job costs into your work in progress if you don't want to. You can use whatever GL. So CHS is looking for all of those so you could tie to your job cost reports. But if you are a CPA and you're asking your builder's office to give you the totals on your balance sheet that's in work in progress and how much is for each job, you might see something that's marked as closed all of a sudden, because CHS will say this is marked as closed, exclamation point, drill down on what the entries are and get those out of your work in progress account, all kinds of things like that. That's usually a wow feature to CPAs. It would take quite a bit of Excel spreadsheets to figure those out. So now just hang in with me just a few more minutes, because I want to show something else to the accountants that they will really like. I'm going here to AJE's POC, closed jobs or books, and I'm going to do job closing. And what I'd like to go over with you is that first of all, there's help for closing a job from getting the check from the title company or other ways. And I'm going to do search for job closing here, and you'll see I have some videos and tutorials about posting monies at job closing. I want to open this help document just for a second, but I'd like you to see how it is going through and telling you how you can get a contract balance report and see about getting that tied to what you have with the title company, how you can get a trial balance for the job to see all the balances for just that job, and then I do an example of some simple closing papers. First of all, you see the loan payoff on the HUD papers, and then you look at what you have for construction loans payable if you've been posting one of those. Take the difference and figure out that that's probably interest, and come up with some additional job costs, etc. that you might like to do in the closing. And then I show you a screenshot of what to do with those and how to get those various costs to job costs, and also to clear out balances for construction loans payable, contract deposits, etc. Get everything to sales and cost of sales in the end. And that's after you post this deposit, and get everything into job costs. And then the screen that we're going to do, I'm just going to select today so you can get an idea. I'll just do our Loveman that we've talked about just for the fun of it. This is a full trial balance of the Loveman job that you can see here with various balances in it. Some of it is already over in advertising, admin, things that somebody put there. Accounts payable won't come into play. It'll just get cleared out. It's just showing you how much is in accounts payable. But these balance sheet accounts that you'll see here will be part of getting your job closed after you've posted that closing deposit. So this isn't ready to post, but I just want you to see that you can continue to a job closing window that gives you the things that would be on your balance sheet and the various balances just for that job. And that if you click Create JE, say for your work in progress direct construction costs, you could select a cost of sales account, and then you can create a journal entry, which basically CHS will do the debit to this account and the credit to this account for that amount. I'm not going to do this because it's not ready, but it's that simple. And when you finish that one, this will be 0. And you'll look at these other ones and think, what do you want to do with them? Of course, these will be different amounts based on the final deposit that you do. I just wanted you to know, I'm not going to update that to closed, that in that help, there's help for the closing deposit, a video for that, a video for closing the job, which is about this, and a video for closing a job that has been doing percentage of completion entries that I mentioned. So I just want the accountants to see that this is here. I've had various accounting packages that there's no way I could just get a little trial balance for just the job or tools like this to close the job without making some spreadsheets about it all or combing through my accounting records. Now, how about something like your General Liability Audit, insurance? Let's do from 07/01/2021 to 06/30/2022 maybe, because I'm just looking for older entries. And you open for General Liability Audit. You're going to see all vendors that were paid, all the entries that were paid. For vendors that have been marked that general liability insurance is required. This is something that you could end up doing a big Excel spreadsheet for to see all the costs in that period. It's showing whether their general liability insurance expired before the end date that you chose. And over here, if you see a little folder icon, it means you have an insurance certificate probably uploaded for them. As you can see, here's one of those. So this one is not expired. We actually got their insurance certificate. This is a spreadsheet that if you do a report of it and you do transaction ledger or general liability audit report with small URLs that Big Buck probably has here to their insurance certificate, you can give this to your auditor and they get completely excited by this report. They come into the office, they say, oh, do you have the reports from CHS? Thank you very much, goodbye. So you don't have to dig through and show them all the general liability insurance certificates if you do things like this and sit and upload for these various people and see their expire dates, send a request for their certificate for general liability, etc. And now I'd like to reassure the accountants or CPAs that say they don't know CHS. This is a basic accounting system just like any other. Double entry, gives you general ledgers, financial statements, and powerful search tools to help you look up anything you'd like to look up in your big accounting database or general ledger. This is the menu for going to the general ledgers accounting database, and you can narrow some things down for searching right here, like select a vendor or a job, but I'm going to open the entire accounting database. And you can start seeing your accounts in the accounting order, etc. right here and see the totals in each account, but there's powerful searches. So if I'd like to just see the account for my work in progress, I can just start typing 1430 because I know what that is. If I just like to see stuff for Big Buck vendor in that account, and I would only like to see for the job that we've been working on, I could do that. So I have 3 things selected. There are a whole lot of other search options. You don't have to fill them all in, you just do the ones you want. Like if you're looking for a particular doc ID or invoice number or a certain journal where things were posted, like deposit journal, accounts payable journal, certain cash account, cash number, things paid by cash. You can search for a range of dates or paid dates, etc. All kinds of things to search for, and there's all kinds of tips about smart ways you can search for certain things. And then you submit your search, and I just got the stuff that was for 1430 for the job Loveman and for the vendor Big Buck, and I see the total for that. And you can get reports. They're called results reports based on what you searched for. So if I just do a regular general ledger of transactions, I get that. And down here along the bottom, besides the wide range that I could have selected when I came in, it shows job Loveman as my filter, Big Buck as my filter, and the GL number 1430. You can get very carried away with that, and there's lots of general ledgers done in various ways, grouped by GL, then the quarter, then the year, grouped by vendors over here, or grouped by GL and then payer. Some of this stuff, especially grouped by GL account and then summed and grouped by vendor underneath each GL account, can do a financial budget, which CHS does have. That's a last plug. Don't worry about using CHS. As far as the CPA and accountants, they can come in here and find anything they want based on what they are familiar with and what they've been trained to do. All right, thank you so much for watching all of this. I hope it's given you a really good idea of why you would have CHS if you are a home builder or in construction in some other way. There's several people that do commercial and remodeling and this and that use CHS. Please feel free to call us with any questions that you may have.